All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to the show. Welcome to another exciting episode of Fortune Cookies Are Dumb, the show where every week we delve into the topic of fortune cookies and why, in fact, they are dumb. Welcome everyone watching at home. Welcome denizens of the People's Republic of Cantabria, human flesh pods plugged around all around the world on the World Wide Web. Demogorgons watching from the upside down, and all the boats at sea. Welcome to another week here. I am joined today by the lovely, the talented, the inimitable Michael Koran. Michael.
Lucky people they don't imitate me. Yes, good.
Can I try?
Imitate me?
Can I?
Go for it.
Is this right? This motion.
Oh, I wouldn't know.
Wow.
Wow.
A human among humans.
I wouldn't know.
May the good Lord bless and keep
I
you.
haven't said that in a long time.
It's been a while. I'm going vintage.
Yes.
Vintage. Michael, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for being with me. Yeah.
This is going to be a bit of a different show. Most weeks, what I do on the show, as everyone knows, I have a very devoted viewership. Usually what I do is I eat fortune cookies, I read the fortunes, and then I talk about why they're dumb.
Yeah.
I take on Big Fortune Cookie and their stranglehold on the consciousness, the collective consciousness of the United States and abroad with their irresponsible and detrimental behavior and flooding our minds, the minds of the masses, with misinformation.
And the poor little children eating their little cookies.
Exactly, the poor little children. But this week we're going to do something different. I'm not going to be reading the fortune cookies. We are going to be looking at Sunbeam's book of quotations. And this, can you tell us a little bit about this book? These are quotations by many people throughout history, right?
Yes, it's compiled by Cy Safransky, who is, which camera are we looking at?
Camera 1.
Cy Safransky, who is an editor of a
We could do camera 2 for a minute if you wanted to. Like armpit and a bit of my nipple there happening.
Well, whatever the crowd is into. Camera 1 might be not nearly as interesting.
I don't know. I mean, it really depends. Okay, so...
You can see this is going to be a very serious show. These are actually serious quotations compiled by Cy Safransky, editor of The Sun magazine, which is an amazing magazine. They keep it at, it's so good they keep it at the Cambridge Public Library's main branch.
Oh, good. And they only have like 16 books there. They're very selective at the Cambridge Public Library.
Many magazines, though. But this is one of them,
yes.
The Sun. And he at the back issue of every edition of The Sun, it's a monthly or bi-monthly, he has quotations on the theme of the magazine.
Oh, okay.
So there's some here about love, there's some here about truth, and so on.
And what we're going to do is I think we're going to kind of recreate what we did when you were on and we were talking about fortune cookies, where and I think it has to do with our different outlooks of the world, but I believe that we're going to find a lot of wonderful quotations in here that I am going to react to like a jerk.
No, I want you to. I want the real Will.
The real Will.
No.
Exactly.
No.
You don't. I mean, you don't
want
think
you know,
it's not.
I want you to really tell me what you truly feel about it.
Okay.
And you might
I'll do that. That's fair.
Yes, you must.
So you want me to drop the pretense?
Yes.
Because it's a rule, and now I'm letting people behind the camera.
Yes, this is an amazing show. This is revealing Will Kurtz.
Generally, there is an artifice where there's a structural rule in the show that every fortune cookie I read has to be dumb.
No. But here you might think some of these that I picked are really dumb.
I probably will.
Yeah, so then we'll know it's real. This is gonna. You're moving into a new zone.
Right. So my challenge here is to honestly, as emotionally and truly honestly and ingenuously as I can, give my actual take on these quotations.
Yes, I like that word ingenuously.
Well, people say disingenuous more than they say ingenuous. Isn't that weird?
Yes, ingenuously means like innocently. Yes.
Right.
Wow. This is going to be a show. I hope it's not banned in Boston, but this is Cambridge.
This is, I guess.
Yes.
All right.
We're going to see the naked Will Kurtz.
Oh, really?
Yes, we always show that's why you show the armpit as the coming attraction.
Exactly. Yeah, there was a little foreshadowing there.
Yes. Okay, so pick one at random. I've selected the one.
Okay, so I just flip through here. Do you want to pick a page, or how do we do this?
No, I'll randomly pick a page.
All right.
And you can pick any of the ones I checked if you
All right.
want.
And I'm going to say that these quotes are by many of them cultural and historic icons, famous writers or artists, or things of that nature, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to read something. Oh, this is by Henry Miller. There are no perfect beings, and there never will be.
Wow.
There are no perfect beings, and there never will be.
That's the whole thing? That's it?
That's the whole quote, and I'm going to tell you why that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, good.
Because it's predictive of a future that Henry Miller has no way of knowing.
Yes, I would agree.
Henry Miller, now let me just confirm that I have this right, that my cultural literacy is on. Henry Miller was a playwright?
No.
Who am I thinking of?
Arthur Miller.
I'm thinking of Arthur Miller. I saw I was way off. Who's Henry Miller?
He, before you were born, I think, wrote many books like Tropic of Cancer.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. He's Tropic of Cancer, and then Arthur Miller is The Crucible.
Death of the Salesman.
Death of the Salesman.
And The Crucible.
Right. Okay, thank you for all. You've already schooled me.
Yeah.
I've already been educated here, so I appreciate
But
it.
I love what you said. If I had you next to me, I wouldn't have checked it.
Mm-hmm.
I think from even me, let alone people like you, are beyond perfect in many, many ways.
Oh, I'm certainly not beyond perfect, unless you mean beyond in a sense different from what I am.
You are seem to be a very good-hearted person.
Thank you.
You're living happily, if I may say this?
Sure.
Happily with a woman, which is an amazing feat.
It is an amazing feat.
It is an amazing, and you've had the courage to do it after failing, I should say rather miserably, if I
Rather miserable.
No, I take it back, okay. Fail.
I mean, in the past, yes, I have been in relationships that haven't worked, as we were talking about
you
before
see,
the show.
he's much more polite than me.
Well, I wouldn't say it was failed. See, this is one thing that I actually feel about kind of strongly, and I know we want to get back to the quotes.
No, we are.
But I feel like if you are in a relationship, a romantic relationship, for a number of years, you have a positive influence on each other's lives during that period of time, you mutually decide to end the romantic relationship, end it amicably, and remain on friendly terms afterwards, I think that's a successful relationship. Right?
Yeah, I agree. I've had my last beloved, I call her my beyond significant other. Because we were once significant others, and then we grew beyond that. And when we went, so I agree with that. And it's beyond perfect, really. Way beyond what I imagined. Including you, actually. And when I grew up, people weren't like you.
What does that mean? They were shorter.
They were shorter. No, you're very good-hearted. You're very easygoing. I was at the University of Chicago, where I grew up in my 20s. And if you weren't suffering from angst, you weren't allowed in.
Oh yeah, sure, but that's I was very I was much angstier when I was younger.
Yeah. So what's the secret of your success? Fortune cookies? No.
It's got to be fortune. What's success in what realm?
Living with someone, happy with yourself. It seems.
I think there's a different
good job also.
I'm sure there's a lot of things that I've worked hard in my life to kind of build upon things and to get to a place where I feel okay about things, and part of it is meeting the right person to have that partnership with, and I guess some of it's just good luck. So. And
would you say, I think that with my present woman friend, beyond significant other, it's beyond what anything, however I imagine perfect, it's way beyond. Mm-hmm. Including my friendships with Michael Mack, including this station. Mm-hmm. It's beyond what I thought it would be.
So, let's say you bring up an interesting, because there's the definition of the word perfection.
Yes.
And bringing it back to the Arthur Agnes Miller
Henry Miller.
Henry Miller,
Yeah.
Frank Miller.
Henry. Dance with me, Henry. All right. Yeah.
Okay. Quote where he says, "There's not a perfect person, there never will be," but we're talking about the very concept of perfection. And I'm sure someone like you is familiar with the allegory of Plato's cave.
Yes.
And how
We got Will so deep. Show is beyond perfection already from the viewers.
I know.
Do you ever think we get as deep as Plato's cave in 10 minutes? Yes.
Right.
Don't let me interrupt you. Go on.
But there, and I'm kind of paraphrasing and probably bastardizing the
I
story.
can't wait
of
to
Plato.
hear how it comes out, though.
But the idea is that perfection is unattainable in our lives, in our reality. Yeah, I think the concept is there's shadows being displayed on the wall of a cave, and we as people are looking at the shadows, so there's always going to be an imperfection in the shadow. But because we have the notion of these shadows, we have in our mind the concept of a perfect chicken, even though we've never seen a perfect chicken in real life, even though we've always seen a chicken with a beak too long or feathers that are sticking out weird or something like that. But because we have we have in our head the overall average amalgamation of every chicken we've ever seen, we have this concept of a perfect chicken, even though we've never encountered one in real life.
That is a beautiful, unique take on Plato's cave. It is.
That was condescending.
No, see, I'm beneath perfection. I was honestly telling him that. It's not the usual understanding. I've never heard that understanding, although it is true.
Mm-hmm.
Plato did believe there's an ideal tree and an ideal chicken.
Right.
And in that sense, your interpretation of Plato's cave, Plato had somebody break out of the cave.
Oh, really? Okay.
Socrates.
Yes.
And instead of seeing the shadow of a tree, the shadow of a cutout of a tree, actually.
Right.
He gets out of the cave, he's blinded by the light, and then he sees a real tree.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. And that's beyond anything he's ever experienced. So in that sense, maybe to make Plato more modern, there's Oscar Wilde said this, he's not in the book, he should have been.
There's no Oscar Wilde in this book?
No, there is, but not this particular one, I don't think.
Okay.
Nature imitates art.
Uh-huh.
Ever since the Impressionists, we've had marvelous sunsets.
I like that. That's
and
good.
So, when you break out of the cave and stop seeing, and really see a tree or a person or a woman or yourself, it can blow your mind.
Right.
Repeatedly, every time you see someone, there's something more about them than you dreamed.
Right. And I think that's why this quote here, "There's no perfect person, there never will be," although isn't there maybe only perfect people?
Beyond perfect, I think, even beyond.
And when you're, for instance, let's say I'm eating a sandwich, I'm eating a perfect sandwich, there's nothing wrong with it, right?
Yep.
Everything about it is good.
Yum.
It may not be the best sandwich I've ever had, but it's perfect.
It could
Right.
be that. or
It's
it
not even
could be-
exceptional, it's just perfect.
It could
right?
be that as we learn to taste more,
Mm-hmm.
and even see and feel more,
Yes.
you can feel the texture of the bread in ways we never did before.
Right, like on our butts.
Yes, and feel.
I've never felt that.
You even feel our butts sitting on the chair in a way we haven't before.
Yeah.
There's so much more to experience. So it's really beyond whatever we thought was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we can make a better sandwich. And I mean, even tasting. I mean, to take time to taste our food, to really taste it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's time that we got to get some more quotes in here.
Yes, good.
All right. This is by someone named Anais Nin. Anais.
Yep.
Anais Nin. "The only abnormality is the incapacity to love. The only abnormality is the incapacity
That's the
to
whole
love."
thing, huh?
That's the whole thing.
Wow.
That's not true at all. There
Wow.
are many other abnormalities, and that's not necessarily an abnormality. I mean, there are plenty of people
Yeah.
who prefer to go through their lives kind of alone or single or like that, right? And there's many other abnormalities. For instance, diphalia.
What is diphalia?
Well, it's Latin. You can Google it. There's plenty of pictures online.
What, you don't want to tell me?
I mean, I think you can Google it offline. Diphalia. People at home can Google image search.
Doesn't sound like it's a good thing.
No. Or maybe it's a very good thing. I don't know. It depends on. It's all about perspective.
Good for you. I agree with Will. That's going to ruin the conversation. I could begin to defend her a little bit. No, it's not really right. It's someone who's not been able to love, actually.
I don't know.
It sounds like she hasn't quite.
I think she has some things to work out. I think.
Yeah, she hasn't gotten to your level.
Maybe.
You're beyond perfect level.
Zen master. All right, we're gonna keep going.
So far, Will is racking it up.
All right. W.S. Merwin. Do you know W.S. Merwin?
He's a poet, yes.
We are the echo of the future.
Should I check this?
Oh, you didn't check
No,
it. I thought we can only do ones that you checked.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. How about Carl Jung? Oh, okay,
Did I
that'll
check-
be good.
did I check it?
You checked it. You
Okay.
checked this Carl Jung thing.
Okay,
I
go
haven't
for
read
it.
it yet, so
Go.
this is going to be fresh.
Yeah.
One does not become enlightened
Go for it, Will.
by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Okay, let's read that again. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Eh,
No.
eh,
Socrates, and I checked this. No.
eh.
Our president might be making the darkness conscious. He was aware of, and certainly rulers in the past we don't want to compare him to.
I think that just fails.
Will is wiping these out like fortune cookies.
That's the one.
Yes, keep going, including ones I picked.
Okay,
I loved them at the time. This is truth.
all right. So this is gonna be a good test because this is by Walt Whitman. I haven't read the quote yet. I don't know what it is, but Walt Whitman, one of my favorite poets and American historical figures. What he represented in the lineage of who he meant, how meaningful he was in the progression of American poets, going from him to the people he influenced, Allen Ginsberg and the Beat Poets, on and on.
Yes.
The fact that he was, a well-known homosexual way back, when, and
I don't know if they knew it.
they didn't know it. He wasn't. Well, it was kind of one of those things where until probably like the 60s or 70s, people. It was like it was all done euphemistically, like people
And
be
he
confirmed
denied.
bachelors or
Someone
whatever.
wrote him from London, from England, saying, am I reading you right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a lover of men? And he denied it.
He denied it.
No.
Oh, I see. Okay. So he never confirmed it actually in his life.
Oh no, but with his biography, there's huge evidence that
Right.
he wasn't as perfect as you. He didn't make it work. Didn't make it work.
Okay. So I'm going to read this Walt Whitman quote, and we're going to talk about it. Light, rare, untellable, lighting the very light. Hold on. I got to read that again.
Boy.
Light, rare, untellable, lighting the very light.
Wow. Oh, it blinds me hearing that. This one I love.
That's over my head. That's over my head. You got to explain that to me.
Well, let's see how I could do this. I might not be able to. I remember when I was young and at high school and went to a Quaker retreat center, Pendle Hill, as a high school student, and we sat in silence, and they said that their founder, George Fox, found an inner light inside, and he realized everyone had it. Everyone, if they'd only, like the song, this little light of mine.
Oh, I love that song. I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, sure.
This little, so that's what Whitman might be saying. This little light of mine is, and how does he put it?
He says, light, rare, untellable, lighting the very light.
Right, this is so bright, it lights even the light that we see. It's a deeper light. It's like, the sun is a light, but it comes from the galaxy, which is a brighter light.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe the super galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And we have that inside too, according to people like Whitman. We're made out of that stuff.
Ah.
And so if we look inside, we can find that inner light and have it shine like the sun.
Okay. I'll accept it.
Okay.
I will accept it.
See, if it's beyond will, then there's a chance that it'll escape his scathing analysis.
All right, here's one we're going to read here. This is a Yiddish proverb.
Yeah, it's good.
So it's not attributed to any one Yid-ish person. Yeah, Yid is a terrible story. I'm sorry. I was
No, that's very funny though.
not one Yiddish person, but
Yeah, yeah.
but just its age. Okay. To a worm in horseradish, the whole world is horseradish.
Gee.
Here's the thing. I believe I'm a worm in horseradish because I believe the whole world is horseradish.
Wow.
That's really how I believe, that it's all horseradish. It's all ridiculous. It's all nonsense.
Really? Your work, your love, your family,
Yeah.
CCTV?
Yep.
Because?
Because it's, we're all very insignificant, right? And everything.
No, I don't agree.
I do.
Why can't we? Aren't we? Emily Dickinson said, when I consider the cosmos,
Mm-hmm.
galaxies surrounding galaxies, I realize I can keep that in my mind and still wonder what I'm going to have for lunch.
Yes.
So we're so huge, we know how small we are.
Well,
And how huge we can take in even the Big Bang.
right. Well, it goes infinitely in both directions, right?
Yeah.
We can go, zoom further and further in, or we can go further and further out. I guess it's just that I don't know, to dust in the wind.
I guess if you think we should probably do this life is it, not like no reincarnation and stuff.
I guess we can go down that road. Here's.
No, but you're so, even when we don't, you're so huge, your mind can take in so much.
Sure, okay.
That's you.
What's the quote? I don't remember the quote we were talking about.
We can't find it.
I don't forget.
It mustn't Whitman.
Oh, what is it? To a worm and horseradish, the whole world is like horseradish. Yeah, and that's I think that sentiment's been expressed, but in like other kind of quotes, and because you're limited by your own perception, by your own experience. If you, or I guess Blake, right? William Blake wrote "Some are born to sweet delight, others born to endless night."
Oh, wow.
And it's just, I guess this is sort of part of my whole point is that everyone's born into a situation that they have absolutely no control over. So if you're born into just like a terrible situation where you're surrounded by famine and disease and your life is horrible, life is going to be different to you than someone who's born like, how I was, to kind of a nicer surrounding. Newton?
Where were you?
I was born in Hanover, New Hampshire. Brought up in Waltham, Massachusetts.
Oh, Waltham. That's more Waltham than
and Belmont, yeah. Yeah, Waltham at the time in the 80s and 90s was much more working class than it is today. It's kind of become gentrified a little bit, hipsterized. They've got, tapas restaurants and stuff on Moody Street now. When I was a kid, it was more like closed down department stores and factories and stuff like that.
The big jump forward to topless restaurants.
It was, yeah, indeed.
Is the food any good, or you just have to be happy with the wait staff?
Oh, and I guess this is what it's getting at, is this whole idea of perfection and good, and how good is everything. Everything's good and everything's just fine, right? Everything's delicious and everything's just fine, and it depends on how hungry you are. I don't know. Like, haven't you ever had just a something simple, like I really like peanut butter and jelly, I think is really delicious, or scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
It's just very simple, but if it could be the best meal to me in the world, or I could go out to a 5-star restaurant and just not be that into it.
No, I don't. I much prefer it. I just took kale, just washed it, put it in a frying pan, no oil.
No oil.
And it was, if you do it quick, the kale can be cooked, turn it over, and it's delicious, very fresh.
Sounds lovely.
So I agree. So,
What I'm saying is that the whole world's horseradish. I like that.
you like that
The
still?
whole world's horseradish. Yes, I do.
Even with the scrambled eggs and peanut butter and jelly? Are you sure that's not an affectation?
It is an affectation, but aren't we all? Here's a. I know there's Vonnegut quotes in here, but there's a Vonnegut quote that I particularly like. Be careful who you pretend to be, because we are all who we pretend to be.
Wow!
And it's in one of his books. I don't remember the name, but it's chronicles the life of someone who was a like a propagandist in kind of like the Rush Limbaugh of the Nazis in Germany.
Oh, yes.
And he's older, and it's reflecting on his life when he's older and after that part of his life is done. And it's, be careful who you pretend to be, because we are all who we pretend to be. So I think that if you're saying something is an affectation and therefore disingenuous and phony, only to a certain extent is that true, in the same way that whatever persona you put out there, there is, I guess, some truth to it.
So you might not think the world is horseradish anymore.
No, I think it's. I like horseradish also.
Oh,
Horseradish is
I
delicious.
love fresh horseradish.
Oh my God, it's so good.
That is so
We
good.
gotta go though. We'll see you. You're gonna be on soon.
This was great.
This was great.
Wow.
Bye, everybody.
Beyond perfection.